Today is March 13th, 2026. 19 days ago, on the night of February 22nd, a storm made landfall along the northeastern coast of the United States and did not leave for 36 hours. When it was over, Providence, Rhode Island had recorded 37.9 inches of snow, demolishing a record that had stood since 1978. More than 30 people were confirmed dead. AccuWeather placed the total economic damage between $34 and $38 billion. That is not a projection. That is the number that followed what experts are now calling the most destructive blizzard in 50 years. The northeastern United States is the most densely populated region in the country. The corridor from Philadelphia to Boston, a stretch of roughly 300 miles, concentrates over 50 million people, 6 of the nation's largest airports, and a rail network carrying millions of commuters every week. The system functions because of predictability. Storms arrive, roads are cleared, trains resume. Emergency managers and utility companies have spent decades building response frameworks calibrated to that rhythm. The implicit assumption was that winter storms, even severe ones, were manageable within known parameters. February 22nd, 2026, tested that assumption against something outside the known range. To understand what happened with the blizzard of 2026, it is necessary to understand the season that preceded it. Winter Storm Fern, which struck from January 23rd through January 27th, pushed over 300 million Americans under weather warnings and advisories at once, making it one of the most expansive winter events in recorded history. Nashville set a precipitation record. Mississippi lost nearly 300,000 power customers. A bomb cyclone in late January brought the heaviest snow to the Carolinas in nearly 25 years. By mid-February, municipal storm crews across the Northeast were operating on depleted budgets. Salt reserves were drawn down. Equipment had been running for weeks. The Weather Prediction Center began tracking a new disturbance forming over the Pacific. In mid-February, the Weather Prediction Center identified a shortwave trough moving ashore in California on February 19th. Initial forecast models showed significant disagreement on the storm's eventual track. A slight deviation of 50 miles eastward or westward would determine whether the heaviest snow fell over open ocean or directly over the population centers of the Northeast corridor. The uncertainty window closed rapidly. By February 21st, a stationary front over the southeastern United States provided the conditions for explosive cyclogenesis. By the evening of February 22nd, a new surface low had formed off the southeast coast and was moving north. What followed was not a gradual intensification. It was a structural transformation. A bomb cyclone is not a colloquial term. It is a meteorological designation for a storm whose central pressure drops by at least 24 millibars in 24 hours. The blizzard of 2026 met and exceeded that threshold. As warm Atlantic moisture fed into a deep, cold air mass descending from Canada, the pressure gradient collapsed with unusual speed. Wind gusts reached 83 miles per hour at Nantucket, Massachusetts. At Wellfleet, gusts reached 77 miles per hour, hurricane force readings in the middle of a snowstorm. Snowfall rates exceeded 2 to 3 inches per hour across coastal areas, meaning that roads cleared at midnight were impassable again by 2 in the morning. The compounding factor was timing. The storm arrived on a Sunday night just as the Monday commute was within hours. The environmental and operational collapse came first. Blizzard conditions, defined as sustained winds of 35 miles per hour, or greater with visibility below 1/4 mile for 3 consecutive hours, were verified across at least 18 cities simultaneously. Visibility dropped to zero along hundreds of miles of coastline. Highways became parking lots of disabled vehicles. In Massachusetts alone, 350 disabled motor vehicles were reported by 2 in the afternoon. The infrastructure layer followed. At peak, 644,000 customers were without power across the Northeast, with Massachusetts and New Jersey absorbing the largest totals. The system was overwhelmed. Then came aviation. More than 9,000 flights were canceled between Sunday and Monday, including nearly every departure and arrival at LaGuardia Airport. Over 21,000 flights were disrupted in total across the full event. Snow totals wrote themselves into the record: 37.9 inches in Providence, 31 inches in Lyndhurst, New Jersey, 27.1 inches in Newark, and 19.7 inches in Central Park. State governments activated emergency protocols in the days prior. New York Governor Kathy Hochul declared a state of emergency for 22 counties and mobilized over 100 National Guard members. New York City deployed 5,000 sanitation workers, 2,300 plows, and 700 salt spreaders. Travel bans covered commercial vehicles across the New York State Thruway and Interstate 84. Connecticut, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Pennsylvania all declared states of emergency. These were not inadequate responses by historical standards. They were responses designed for historical storms. The blizzard of 2026 was not a historical storm. It was a future storm that arrived early, in a season whose prior events had already strained every layer of the response system to its limit. AccuWeather chief meteorologist Jonathan Porter described the 2025 to 2026 winter as the third major storm to cause billions in damage in a single season, following $14 to $17 billion in losses from a Gulf Coast winter storm in January and $13 to $15 billion from a subsequent bomb cyclone. The cumulative toll for the winter exceeds $60 billion by conservative estimates, and winter, astronomically defined, does not end until March 20th. The blizzard of 2026 did not occur in isolation. It occurred at the end of a season that had systematically degraded the capacity of every system designed to absorb it. The question forecasters are now examining is not whether this winter was anomalous, but whether this is the range within which future winters will routinely operate. The infrastructure, the budgets, and the response frameworks were built for a different answer.